Welcome to Convince Me, presented by Bet365. We are kicking off the Power Hour, the only pregame show with all the stuff you care about, none of the fluff you don't. Leave that to the other preview shows. I am Chad Millman. Over the next 30 minutes, my Action Network buddies, Stuckey, Simon Hunter, Chris Raybon, are going to try to convince me what player props, what sides, what totals I should play today. For those of you wondering, where's Sean Kerner? We're wishing him well. He's not feeling so great today. Plus, we have Darren Rovell Evan Abrams on the Action Network news desk with market reports and trends that make you sound smarter than all your friends. Don't forget, the latter half of the show, the Power Hour, continues with the Touchdown Show. Gilles Gallant, Brian Matthews, Charlie Disturco, talking about all the best TD props for today. They have been on fire, folks. But first, Convince Me is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. It believes that every sport should be epic. Every touchdown, every game, every point, every play, from the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. See for yourself when you sign up today with code ACTION, and you'll get $365 in bonus bets when you bet just $1, whatever the sport, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or over and present in Colorado, Iowa, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, 18 and over in Kentucky. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions apply. Before we begin, if you're watching us on YouTube, please like, please subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. All the picks we discussed today available for free in the award-winning Action Network app. Download it. Don't forget, sync your bets. Sync your Bet365 bets with the Action Network app. It's the coolest, slickest way to track your picks with ease and speed. Click the My Accounts button in the My Action tab in the Action app. All right, we're getting to it. Player props. Stuckey, you're kicking it off. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, brother. We're going to go with Bijan Robinson anytime touchdown. He hasn't gotten the end zone yet this year. He's way overdue, but more importantly, he's getting a lot of touches, right? He's getting 10 to 12 carries. He's getting 5 to 6 catches, and he's going up against a Texans defense that can't stop the run. That's the most important handicap when you look at the Falcons. They're basically like a service academy. Can you stop the run? If you can, they're done. Bet against them. If you can't, they're going to get a lead. They're going to keep running. They're going to feed Bijan. They're going to get him involved in many different ways. He's been so explosive, so impressive. I think he's going to get in the end zone here. And look, if you go into our beautiful app and you look and you see who bet, out of the people I follow, it's 12 people on the Texans, including Colin Wilson. He's a college football guy. Colin Whitchurch, he's a baseball guy. Ravel loves the only 2 people that are on the Falcons are you and me, the 2 sharpest people at this company. And how are they going to do that? With Bijan Robinson getting in the end zone.
Oh my God, Stuckey, you come on the show. You're immediately playing to the audience. You know how this game is played, which I love. And you're right. In fact, Simon and I, in our favorites film session, which everyone should watch, it's a YouTube exclusive from the favorites, I broke down the Falcons run game and how they are one of the most dominant rushing teams to the right, both inside and outside, with Tyler Algiers and Bijan Robinson, because the right side of their line is so dominant. It's like you're giving me, like what Kerner does that is so smart. He gives me official stats when he's giving me totals. You come in and give me a pick you know I'm going to love. Simon, how do you top that? Stuckey's playing to the crowd here.
No, you got me. I was going to take this pick. And Robinson did score. He scored week 1 on a receiving touchdown. I'm right there with Stuckey, though. It's like they're pricing this as if this guy has scored every other week. I mean, minus 120 in a lot of books. That's a great play by Chad. I'm going with Achane, our guy, Chad, the Miami running back. This kid is leading the team in red zone touches right now. Like, in the last 2 weeks, they've just been feeding the ball, and it looks like he just has a different type of speed. It really does remind me of when Chris Johnson kind of came in the league, and there was just that different type of speed, and that's what this kid has. Now we're going to get to Giants team that cannot stop the run. Like, it just feels like Miami, they're going to bulldoze them, Chad. We know this team can put up a lot of points, especially if they're a down week last week. In a game, he scored 2 touchdowns against the Bills. Like, even though they played bad, he's still so effective in the red zone. So they have moved the price up. It was plus 100. Now a lot of books are showing minus 110, minus 120. I still like the value there, Chad. A Miami team that I think they're going to score a lot of points today. So if I'm going to get another anytime touchdown prop, I do love Stuckey's. I was going to steal it. He beat me to it, but this one's second best. I just love this number for a guy who I could see getting multiple touches in the red zone. That's what I'm looking for when I bet these kind of props.
It's like you guys are stealing all the picks from the touchdown show later in the show. All right, Stuckey and Simon are on 2 anytime touchdown props so far. Raybon, break the trend.
All right, I'm going Chris Moore under 2.5 receptions. His season high is 2, first of all, so he's never cleared this, but his average depth of target is 26, so he's a low percentage kind of downfield guy, or that's how he's being used with the Titans. And now you have Kyle Phillips, who was initially meant to be their slot receiver. He was on the IR for the first 4 weeks. He got activated, so he should be active in this game, and that could cut into Chris Moore's snaps. But even if they don't, he just has too much of a downfield average depth of target to expect him to get to 3 catches. So I actually think this prop should be closer to 1.5, not 2.5. So under 2.5 receptions for Chris Moore all day.
Why do we think bookmakers are making it over 2 if he hasn't even gotten to that number yet this year?
Because he played, I think, like 83% of the snaps. So he was their number 3 receiver last week. But even if you're kind of marketing for that, I don't think they're adjusting for his average depth of target, which has been a little bit different from the way he's been used in other places.
I got to say, guys, this one is tough for me because I hate Raybon props because they always cash and they're always the most excruciating to watch during a game because you're basically praying that nothing happens. And while you're watching a game, you see the quarterback drop back and you're just hoping that when the camera pans and the ball is going downfield, it's not going to be going to the guy that he mentions. It's inevitable every single week. And I love Bijan so much. I'm going with Bijan. Stuckey, you're on the board. You win round 1. Bijan Robinson, anytime touchdown. Way to go. Raybon, don't worry. You're gonna get your chance. Don't worry about a thing. Stuckey, kick us off with some sides.
I don't know if Raybon's going to get his chance, but we'll see. There's always next week when I won't be here. But I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys catching over a field goal Sunday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers. I just don't think there's much separation between these teams. They could play on the moon. They could play in London. Wherever they played, if I'm getting over a field goal in this matchup between 2 teams that I think are pretty even, these are the elites in the NFC along with the Eagles. Take any of those 3 in any combination. If you're going to give me over a field goal, I'm going to take it. And from a matchup perspective, you have to get pressure on Brock Purdy. If you do not get pressure on him in a clean pocket, he has been unbelievable, and there's too many weapons on that offense that's beautifully schemed, and you're not going to stop him. The difference between his numbers in a clean pocket versus pressure are unbelievable. I mean, it's just a massive gap. He's 26th in adjusted completion percentage under pressure, 24th overall per PFF. So he's been a bit vulnerable under pressure. He also has, 3 big-time throws, 4 turnover-worthy throws when under pressure, but hasn't thrown his picks yet. Well, guess what? In comes the Dallas defense that leads the NFL in pressure rate. I think they're going to get to Purdy just like they did last year. And look, the biggest question coming into the season was the San Francisco offensive line. Outside of Trent Williams, there are questions. Dallas attacked the right side in the playoffs last year. They got to Purdy. They bothered him. The offensive line is even worse than it was last year. Haven't really faced a team that can generate a ton of pressure. This is the night. I think Dallas is going to come out. You're going to see everything they have here. I mean, this is a team that eliminated them from the postseason each of the past 2 seasons. And on the other side of the ball, San Fran's had a bottom 5 run defense so far this season. I know it's a small sample size, but they've had some issues there. And if you can get Pollard going on the ground, that's going to open up everything else for the Dallas offense. I think this will be close, but look, I just think this profiles as a field goal game. Give me over a field goal anytime in this matchup.
We're going to dig much deeper into this game. It's definitely the marquee matchup of the day, potential preview of an NFC title game. Really strong opinions on this game from you and from Raybon and from Simon, not necessarily concurring opinions. So stick around. We'll talk about this game later in the show. Simon, give me your pick.
Yeah, we're getting a team against Zach Wilson under a field goal, and that team happens to be Denver. I know people hate it, but it's a team under a field goal against Zach Wilson. I can't believe this is really happening, Chad. We have a true gift here. This Denver team, I get it. Their defenses look terrible. Everyone's talking about how bad their defense is, but I don't think enough people are talking about how good Russell Wilson's been this year in this new Sean Payton offense. And if you go through the numbers, like, it's really not on him. Everything really is about their defense. And what I saw from them in that second half against that Bears team was a team that easily could have rolled over and quit, and they didn't. Like, really, the third quarter, Fields went right down the field, scored another touchdown. It was, I believe at this point, it was like 28-3 or 28-10, whatever it was.
28-7. If we're going to talk about a Bears epic collapse, let's make sure we get the very specific details right.
And he just, whatever Sean Payton does with this team, he rallied those guys. The next 3 possessions the Bears had, they had 2 turnovers. They had a stop on third down. There's just a lot to build off for this Denver team, where the Jets on the other side, that felt like their everything game, Chad. That Chiefs game in prime time, everyone all in on that team, and they kind of fell short. Now the public is all in on the Jets. That's when you really want to get off this team, where they saw Zach Wilson play a good game in prime time against that Chiefs team. I've never seen Zach Wilson put together good back-to-back starts. This is why we talk all the time, Chad. These guys don't make it in the leagues because they can't be consistent. So if you want to bet on Zach Wilson to do something he's never done in his career in the NFL and be consistent and bet on back-to-back as, this chalky dog that everyone's going to be betting, I'm so happy this number moved. I mean, I was hoping we had 1.5 earlier in the week, Chad. That was so nice. It's still under a field goal. So, I couldn't pass on this one. -2.5. Give me Denver in this spot every time.
Well, you're not wrong. Everybody is backing Zach Wilson right now. About 69% of the tickets coming in on the Jets. It's funny when you said, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I thought you were going to break into Kelly Clarkson. Like, I can't believe this is happening to me when she won an American Idol. Remember that time? Raybon, you remember that. Before we get to Raybon's pick, we're going to run a clip from Friday's episode of Green Dot Daily. I think everyone's going to enjoy it.
Well, everyone knows that I am a consistent square, and the squarest pick this week is the Houston Texans money line, baby.
No!
Raybon.
Obvious.
All right, Raybon. It's an interesting foreshadowing moment for us. Can you tell me who's your pick this week as your side?
That would be the Houston Texans +2.5. And I had to ask the production to run that clip to show you guys how much I still like this pick for me to be going with it, even though Rovell's on it. But I just think Houston's the far better team. They're 11th in DVOA. They're better on offense, defense, and special teams than Atlanta. And yes, Houston's run defense is their weakest unit. Atlanta's pass defense is its weakest unit. They're both bottom 6 in DVOAs. The pass is more important than a run. Desmond Ridder is literally averaging almost half of adjusted net yards attempt to CJ Stroud. Stroud is 3rd in the league at 7.7. Ridder is 29th at 4.1. Houston's 13th in points per drive. Atlanta's 25th. And Houston gets Tunsil and Howard back. They're starting tackles. They've been doing all this. They haven't got sacked in 2 games without their starting tackles. I just think this Houston team is going to score too much for Atlanta, even at home. Desmond Ridder's taking his first L. But I did sweep this show 2 weeks in a row, so maybe I just got to give Simon and Stuck a chance to catch up. But
see, there you go. There you go. Just a nice little reminder of how hot Raybon has been. I did look in the Action Network app today. Raybon, I think in your last 32 games, you're 23-9 against the spread with all your props and science and totals in the NFL.
That was fear, Chad. That was fear, by the way, at the end.
It was. It was.
Well,
you know what that was,
hot.
Stuck? Here's what that was. You're 100% right. That was leaving the door open to, I've been so hot lately that if I'm wrong on this one, I feel like it's justified and I'm okay with it because I've been so good at what I've been doing. This is a polarizing game, right? If we're talking about the most polarizing games of the week, we're talking about Indy and Tennessee. We're talking about Atlanta and Houston and Stuck and Raybon. You guys did a phenomenal job of breaking this down in the Action Network Thursday pod and in the Sunday 6-pack. It's a fascinating game. I love Atlanta in this game. I don't have to tell you, I feel like Arthur Smith is a very good coach. I feel like the run game can be dominant. It's going to play to the strengths of what Atlanta can do, even though I know they have significant weaknesses. But I also just think Texans at this point, it's never been higher. Now it will be higher if they win because CJ Stroud has been so good. And I know Raybon, like you are very high on CJ Stroud. Simon has been very high on CJ Stroud even before the draft. So I get what you're saying. I'm going to have to go with Denver in this one. And we're going to talk about the Cowboys a little bit later, but I'm so all in on Atlanta that Denver, even though I don't like it at all, betting on Zach Wilson on the road at his peak value is going to be really hard for me to do. So I'm going with Denver Broncos. Simon, congratulations. All right, let's get to the Action Network news desk. We got Darren Rovell with the markets. We got Evan Abrams with everything we need to know to make us smarter. Darren.
First of all, Chad, since you asked for it, I can't believe it's happening to me.
There you go.
Some people take a moment. All right. Most bet games, obviously, we're going to start with the London game because everyone likes to get betting early. Jaguars, Bills, Cowboys, 49ers, and Ravens, Steelers. Most bet teams, the Bills, -5.5, and they are down 4 at the half. 49ers, -3.5. 49ers are 3-1 this year against the spread. They're 16-8. Only the Lions are better since last year. And since 2019, 59% against the spread. Only the Dolphins and Packers are better. Chiefs -3.5. You know, everyone, I say this every week. Everyone's like, the Chiefs are automatica. Well, not really. They're only 52% against the spread with Mahomes and 42 and 43 as a favorite under Mahomes. Okay. Then we got most bet overs, Jaguars, Bills. Again, not looking good, 18.5. Cowboys, 49ers, 45. The public obviously loves that since both of them are averaging 31 a game. And the Giants, Dolphins, 47.5. A matchup with the highest scoring team in the NFL and the lowest scoring team. So we're probably looking at 48-0, 42-3, 38-9. Who knows? It will be pain. Most bet unders. Ravens, Steelers at 38. The Steelers are tied with the Giants as the most unders, closing unders under 40 in the past 2 seasons, 14. Thank you for that, Evan. Saints, Patriots, 39, and Bengals, Cardinals, 45. And the most bet player props, very rarely do we have a most bet player prop under. It's always like everyone's so excited for an over. Kyren Williams, under 56.5 rushing yards. No one believing what happened last week against the Colts was anything that could be consistent. Dalton Kincaid, over 3.5 receptions, and Wan'Dale Robinson, over 4.5 receptions. That's what I got.
It's like the public has all become Chris
Sure.
Raybons. Just finding player prop unders they can bet. Evan, take it away.
Sure. I feel like we have to start with road teams because the success has been unreal. They've got 34 straight up wins entering Thursday Night Football. Of course, the Commanders lost to the Bears. So now 35 wins. Second most all time through that many weeks. The record through 5 weeks is 44. So going to need 9 more today to kind of tie that record in 2019. But some serious road warriors so far this year. So something to look forward to. Feel like we got to also hit on Steelers Ravens, which I haven't heard much of in this show. I think we will in a little bit, but underdog covered in 11 straight in this rivalry, 15-1-1 for the underdog since 2015. The crazy thing, spread now 4.5. It's only closed above 4 in this rivalry once since 2017. And Stuck knows this. This is only Lamar's 4th game versus Steelers. He hasn't played the last 3, which is interesting. Injuries, all sorts of different situations. The other story today, which I don't even think this game's going to be in this show, so got to get it in now. Giants, Dolphins. Line is up to 13, but right now, 88% of bets are on Miami. No team has closed with 88% or more since the Packers in 2011. And if it gets to 90, that'd be the Patriots in 2008. So we could be looking at like the biggest public side in about 15 years, depending on where it closes with Miami. All right, guys, Darren, Chad, some multiple choice trivia. We're going to go with the Miami theme. So Tua is 22-15-1 against the spread in his career with the Dolphins, up about $519 for a better. He is the second most profitable Dolphins quarterback in the last 20 years. The question I have, who's the most profitable? He's $1 up on Tua. Tua can pass him today with a cover. Just give me a Dolphins quarterback. Who do you got?
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Jay Fiedler.
Chad Millman with Ryan Fitzpatrick absolutely nailing it. Fitzmagic. Nice job, Chad. Good job.
I didn't even know where it was going. There were nothing in the script gives us any hints. And so it just sort of felt natural to me. I think the answer for any question about any quarterback in the NFL should be Ryan Fitzpatrick. Maybe that's just what it is. Look, that Dolphins Giants game, I mean, it's going to be tricky. How do you not end up betting on the Giants this week, at least for a little bit of a taste? Guys, Convince Me is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. It believes that every sport should be epic, every touchdown, every game, every point, every play, from the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. See for yourself when you sign up today with code ACTION, and you'll get $365 in bonus bets when you bet just $1. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Colorado, Iowa, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, 18 and over in Kentucky. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions apply. All right, guys, let's get into the totals. Stuckey, what are you doing first?
Yeah, interesting to follow up on what Evan said first is Road Warriors. If the Jags hold on here, be another win for the road team. They're technically the road team in this game, even though they've been at their home for 2 weeks with a big advantage there. But Chad, first I want to say that I agree with your Broncos selection. I think that was a fine selection there last time, going with Simon. Under field goal is a great choice. And then earlier in the show, you said, I want things to happen. I don't want to root for, Chris Moore not to get catches the entire game. Well, if you want to root for things to happen, let's go to Minnesota and go with the over between the Vikings and Chiefs. What can you not do? What can you never do in the NFL? Blitz Patrick Mahomes. Don't do it. He has twice the EPA over any other quarterback since coming into the league. When blitzed, he is an alien. You can't blitz him. Well, the Vikings have no defense. It lacks talent. So what is Brian Flores doing? He's trying to create pressure. They're blitzing 57% of the time, which leads the NFL. Giants are second, I think, at around 49%. That's going to end in disaster. Or, if he just completely changes it up, you're sitting back and you have no one to cover, and Mahomes is going to pick you apart. And on the other side, this Vikings offense is actually playing well. They've just been extremely unlucky. They're eventually not just going to fumble every time they get into the red zone with like touchbacks and fumbled snaps. They're moving the ball. I think this profile is just a shootout back and forth. The Chiefs defense has improved, but it's still not great. Fast track here. If the Vikings continue what they've been doing, Mahomes is going to pick them apart. I think Cousins can answer. This game should be fun back and forth. Let's go Vikings Chiefs over.
Yeah, no doubt. We got a shootout coming. That's going to be a fun one. Simon, and by the way, Stuckey, I appreciate all the pandering. Doesn't go unnoticed. You're killing it today. Absolutely killing it. Excellent appearance. Simon, what do you got?
I always joined Stuckey in an over, chat. I was looking at that Eagles-Rams over for a while, but I was like, this is what they want me to do. So I ended up taking an under. Took the Texans Atlanta under, and looking at this matchup, it's kind of an emotional hedge, Chad. If we go crashing down right now in Ritter, at least we got the under, because this guy, when he crashes hard. So this is a team that I've been trying to take their under every week just because of him, and it's been working out. In this matchup, it's perfect. It's a matchup of the Texans. I think Chris already talked about. They're 28th DVOA against the run. It's a team that is very bad against the run. What does Atlanta want to do? Keep the ball out of their quarterback's hand and run the ball with their two stud running backs. So looking at this matchup, we expect regression to come for CJ, right? Eventually, he's going to hit a wall. It's just how it is. They build a playbook against these rookies. Whatever he likes to do best, teams figure it out. This is a nice spot to go against him on the road after 2 huge wins for that Houston team. This is just a letdown spot. So I see him having a bad game. See Atlanta ball control and run the ball. It just all points to the under. So no shock here. The public's coming on the over. I believe they opened at 41 and a half. Now it's up to 42. I'll take the value on that key number. I'll take the under here at 42, Chad.
Simon, I'm a professional. I play this cool, calm, collected. I don't need emotional hedges. Everything you just said, you know what it did? It just made me feel more confident about being in Atlanta in this game. All right, Raybon, let's see if you can get off the schneid here.
I'm going Ravens Steelers under 38 and a half. The Ravens are tied for first on defense, allowing 3.8 yards per play. We know the Steelers' offensive struggles are 31st in points per drive, 32nd in red zone trips. Kenny Pickett's going to be starting with a knee brace. Deontay Johnson's out. Pat Freiermuth is out, which is big because, the Steelers team, they like to go over the middle a lot, and it's now it's going to be tough to do that. Their left tackle is out. James Daniels, their guard, is out. There's going to be winds here, though, 15-mile-per-hour winds. So that's going to, I think, slow down the Ravens offense a little bit. The Ravens offense, very slow paced, bottom 5 in pace. And then I think the Steelers are going to have to go slower too, because number one, you got a bunch of guys out. And number two, Pickett can't move as well. So you can't he's probably not just going to be running up to the line and all this stuff. So I think you're just going to see a slow paced divisional matchup here. And we've seen divisional unders with double-digit win speeds go 59% since 2004. So give me the Steelers-Ravens under.
Yeah, I mean, I love this one. And it's the fact you're getting, you can still get the 38.5. It's available. This is a great spot to be playing an under in an ugly game. Also, Raybon, I want to ask you about Najee Harris because he started to play a little bit better. They started to get him in a little bit better situations last week. When you look at this game from a player projection perspective, I know I'm throwing this at you. Do you see this as an opportunity for him to perform and that to be part of the game plan and keep this game sort of moving more slowly?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. They're going to handle the ball a ton, especially after last week. That's obviously what they want to do that every week. So it really just depends on, if the Ravens can build a lead. But, we know that these are these Tomlin spots where, Steelers coming off a loss. Now they're dogs at home against a divisional opponent. Their defense is going to come out on fire. I think the wins also are going to slow down that Ravens deep passing game a little bit. So I do think Najee will be very involved.
All right. So there you go. I'm taking Baltimore. I'm taking Pittsburgh. I'm taking the under 38.5. Also a game in which people have been loading up on the Steelers at +4, +4.5. All right. The Sunday night game. I promise we're going to talk about this a little bit more. Dallas Cowboys visiting the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners are 3.5-point favorites. This line has barely moved. 80% of the money, 63% of the bets coming in on the Niners. The total is about 45. Stuckey, you talked a little bit about this earlier in the show. I'm giving you a chance now to go even deeper in your explanation of the Dallas Cowboys.
I ultimately think this will close 3. So if you like the Cowboys, I would bet it now. And if you like the 49ers, I would wait for the 3. But I think if you had to do like a headline tomorrow, it would be pressure burst Purdy's pipes. And I think that's ultimately what this comes down to. Dallas leads the NFL in pressure rate. The biggest question, I mean, they got pressure all game last year. Look, it was a game that was 9-9 headed into the fourth quarter. Pollard got hurt. Dak threw his picks. The Cowboys dropped a pick. Purdy's been close to a couple picks, couple turnover-worthy throws. I think he's due for a mistake here, and he's going to be forced into it by that pressure. That 49ers offensive line, major question marks. They lost 2 starters last year, and if you look, no one on their offensive line, besides Trent Williams, who still grades out as the best left tackle in football, the ageless Trent Williams, the rest of their offensive line, all below average. And Dallas can exploit that. They can bring pressure from many different areas. They don't have to rely on the blitz either to do it, but Dan Quinn will bring some exotic blitzes. You're going to get the kitchen sink here from Dallas. I think it's an important game mentally. Obviously, it's like, can we get over this hump? So important for them. I think Dallas is ready. And I just think these two teams, there's not much separating them. So getting over a field goal, the success that road teams have had, home field advantage just continues to diminish. I think you got to take over a field goal with the road dogs here.
Simon.
Chad, you wouldn't know this, but I mean, it could be because our production team semi-hates me, but I went 4-0 last week and 2-0 in the Sunday night game last week. So this is another game where I want to be on Stuckey's side. I wanted to get there. I'm worried about Stuckey. I think someone body snatched him. The man invented Brocktober, and now he's fading Brock. What, Stuckey, what is going on? Are you okay?
In October.
Yep.
I'm worried for the guy.
That is the only I do have a little bit of fear in the back of my mind because of Brocktober. I wish this game was played last weekend.
Yeah, so I just couldn't get there on the Cowboys, and I went back and watched that playoff game from last year, and say what you want. I think the 49ers actually improved this year. The fact that it's Brock's second year, the fact that they got Hargroves to that defense, that D-line, they're just dominant. And looking at this matchup, I just couldn't get over the fact that they had 10 possessions of the Cowboys last year, and Dak got 1 touchdown in that playoff game. So say what you want about this team. It just seems like Dak falls in these kind of moments, and I get it. Where he's coming from, he's like, I'm taking the 3.5. It is a nice number. You do think this should fall in 3, both evenly matched teams, but I'm just so high on this 49ers team. And the way they're playing right now, I feel like they're playing like the best team in football, which you don't really want your team to be the best team in football in September, October, but they are, and they're just playing like it right now. So when I'm looking at this game, I wanted to get there, the Cowboys, I just couldn't chat. I think I'm still getting a good number on this 49ers team. I have the coaching advantage. Say what you want. I think their defense is really good still, this 49ers team. So I'm going to take the home team that just consistently covers at home and take this 49ers team.
Yeah, look, the Niners at this point have the shortest odds at Bet365 to win the Super Bowl. Cowboys have the 5th shortest odds. Very interesting. Raybon, what do you got?
Go with Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown. He scored in 13 straight, dating back to last season, including the playoffs, including against the Cowboys. He's going to do it again. Easy.
You know, I love when Simon gets a little bit competitive about the show and reminds everybody that he also went undefeated last week, which I think is worthy. But Simon knows that I love him. Simon knows that I'm tailing Simon, especially on this game tonight with the Niners at -3.5. And I feel like, Stuckey, other than your explanation about the Niners O-line, which is tangible and valid, and your explanation about the Niners run defense, which is also tangible, but I'm not convinced the Cowboys are in a position to take advantage of that. Like, I haven't been gotten anybody to explain to me overwhelmingly why this hook at 3.5 is the way to go with the Cowboys. I love the Niners here. Better coach.
Well, Chad, I'll just tell you though, just if you like the Niners, just wait. I bet there's a good chance. Why rush, right? But there's a good chance this thing gets to 3, in my opinion.
The truth is, I've already bet it at 3.5. If it gets to 3, I'm going to bet it again at 3. But they've got the better coach, better scheme, better offense. I think they have an equal defense at worst. And so I asked Evan to look up some numbers, like give me the handrail on the roller coaster here to make me feel a little bit more comfortable. But then even against the spread, like, people have a tendency to believe that the Cowboys and Dak underperform in situations, high pressure situations. The truth is relatively even in this spot, right? Shanahan above 500 as a favorite of more than 3 at home. Dak and McCarthy together and separately are above 500 as dogs of more than 3 on the road. The only stat that stood out is that Dak tends to play to what the expectation is in these games. 35 night games in his career, 20-5 straight up as a favorite, 3-7 as a dog. I'm just not a buyer in Dak. I'm not a buyer in Mike McCarthy as a coach. If you're giving me a relatively even matchup and I'm getting Shanahan with what I think is a better scheme, I'm going to go with Shanahan. I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers -3.5.
Swayed by the Eagles fan away from the Cowboys.
Yeah, right. How poetic. No surprise. I didn't even, you know what, Stuckey? I didn't even think of that. And now it's too late. But listen, we're going to find out. By the end of the night, we're going to find out who's right, who's wrong. We're going to find out, did Bijan score a touchdown? We're going to find out, did Denver cover -2.5? Did Pittsburgh and Baltimore go under 38.5? Did the Niners cover at 3.5? And what you can do, download the Action app, find all of our picks there. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. Stick around for the touchdown show. Thanks, everybody. Good luck this week.
Thank you, Chad, and the whole Kavitsky crew, and welcome to week 5 of the Touchdown Show on the Action Network, presented by Bet365. I'm Gilles Gallant, and I'm joined every week by Charlie Disturco and Brian Matthews, a.k.a. the BMAT. Now, guys, this is our first week of the season with buys. There's 4 teams off. We've got the Chargers off, the Bucks, Seahawks, and the Browns. I know you can't bet on Kenneth Walker this week, Brian, but that's okay. Now, there's only also 6 games at the 1 p.m. window, but Charlie, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't already locked in for Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could see it on the screen, but you have your Dallas Cowboys star right on your chest right there. Yeah, Cowboys, 49ers. This is arguably the best game of the entire season, up with the Buffalo Dolphins game last week, and that was a dud. So hoping this one's great. We'll be giving out our thoughts on those touchdown scores. And of course, B-Matt will have his we'll talk about his tiers as well. And I think we have some fun guys that we're going to be discussing on this show.
Yeah, and Brian, you were on Action Island just this past week, and you were looking at 2 touchdown scores in those games. Are you going to be tracking those in the Action app with some of those?
Yeah, so I'm actually waiting. There's a pattern for the touchdown odds to get slightly better.
This is true.
About 4 hours before kickoff. So I've been tracking that trend, but you'll be if you're following me on the Action app, you will definitely see Brandon Ayuk find his way onto the Action app. It just feels like a Brandon Ayuk game. Already got into it there on the reasons why, but I just think he's due for a big night.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that game in a little bit more time here. And also, as Brian or myself or Charlie, if we lock in any touchdown picks, set notifications so that way you're able to get it as soon as possible. And he's going to have 3 picks today for the show. Charlie and myself, we're also going to have 3 picks for the 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. slates. Some are going to be chalky, and some are just going to be outright spicy. I can't wait to share what spicy picks I've got for today's slate. Now, also make sure to stick around, because after we give out our picks, of course, we're going to reveal the special anytime touchdown boosted parlay from Bet365. No gimmicks, just some boosted odds on some good players. And the touchdown show is presented by Bet365, and Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boost with them than anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only, or 18 plus in Kentucky, and present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia. Or if you're in Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Terms and conditions and restrictions apply. All right, gentlemen, let's get started. I'm going to go immediately to the Saints-Patriots game, and I'm going to take Alvin Kamara at plus 130 to score a touchdown. Now, he looked fresh in week 4. I'd imagine you would if you're coming off a 3-game suspension, but he did see 75% of snaps in his return versus the Bucs. Now, part of it was a trailing game script, but guys, Kamara saw 14 targets in his return. 2 of those were red zone targets. And Kamara could actually be a huge boost for Derek Carr, or I call him dump off Derek Carr or check down Carr, whatever you want to call him, because he's been awful this year in scoring territory. The Saints are last in red zone touchdown percentage so far this year at 33%. So with having Kamara back in that lineup, positive progression is going to come. Kamara offers that rushing, receiving threat now for the Saints as well. And this Patriots defense, huge drop-off from the Bucs defensive line. They're also missing their 2 best defenders in Christian Gonzalez, who was just put on injured reserve, along with Matt Judon. So if Derek Carr's in the red zone, Kamara is going to get multiple opportunities to score. I think the weather as well in the New England area could also play a factor. And for what it's worth, because I do track the anytime touchdown odds, I did think it would be worth bringing up is that they did play in New England in 2021. And for reference, Alvin Kamara was around minus 130 to score. So we're getting a little bit more value here at plus 130 in this offense. So Alvin Kamara is my first pick for week 5. Now, Charlie, I looked at this guy last week, but I want you to go elaborate a little bit more. Take us through what your best bet is for Bengals Cardinals.
Yeah, I will say before I say that, I do love Kamara today. I took his rushing attempts over last week, thinking that they would feed him with Derek Carr's injury. Turns out he just gets 13, 14 targets. He's going to be an absolute monster when it comes to just usage. But I'm heading out to that Bengals Cardinals game, as you mentioned, and you took him last week. I'm going with him this week. Jamar Chase plus 122.
Got to do it.
And this is a game because, listen, frustration equals targets. That's something that I think we've kind of picked up with over the last couple of weeks. A.J. Brown yelled at Jalen Hurts on the sidelines. He's gotten 27 targets over the last 2 weeks. CeeDee Lamb said, "Get me the ball. I'll score." Right after that Arizona game, he scored a touchdown last week.
Yep,
I had
he
him
sure
last
did.
week. Yep. And this week, Jamar Chase, with more colorful language, said that he's always open. Now that with T. Higgins being out, this is a game that I think Burrow just relies on Jamar Chase. He did say, Burrow, for what it's worth, the best practice of his life was this, or best practice of the year was this past week. He's off the injury report. So whether or not he's fully healthy remains to be seen. But if he's a little bit healthier, that means Jamar Chase is going to be get to use more against his Arizona defense. That is atrocious. They're 30th in passing DVOA, bottom 6 in yards per catch rate. And Jamar Chase is a target hog. So when it comes to a positive touchdown regression, he hasn't had one yet this season. I love Chase getting a chance here. He's going to be a red zone threat. He's going to be relied on heavily in this game, and one that I think could be high scoring. So give me Jamar Chase, especially at this plus 122 number.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm really interested to see is, when are we going to see the Joe Burrow we know? Because if it's the Joe Burrow we know, we're not getting Jamar Chase at plus 120. We're getting it around minus 120. And if all reports are coming out that the practices are starting to become a little bit more relevant and Burrow is actually becoming a little more competent here, because again, his average depth of target, like his yards per attempt, his completion percentage, it's all at a career low. This is not the Joe Burrow we're used to. So if we could finally see the Joe Burrow we're used to, maybe we can actually be renewed with confidence that we can bet on Bengals touchdown scores. And this is the week that we're going to see it. All right, Brian, this is a popular running back this week. I want you to elaborate a little bit more. I don't even know if I could pronounce his last name properly. So I'm actually going to let you take the reins here, but tell us who you like for your first best bet of week 5.
Yeah, so there were like 3 or 4 guys that I was between, but I ended up settling on Devon Achane. Look, the guy has over the last 2 weeks just somehow been the best running back in the NFL. And he's had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in each of his last 2 games. And he did that last week on 10 carries. So it was a negative game script. It was a much tougher matchup, that he was in last week. And now the Dolphins get to go and play the Giants, who have been abysmal. They can't play offense. They have looked, terrible. Daniel Jones hasn't looked good. Saquon Barkley is out. So look, the way I see it, right, Miami is going to take a lead. I think they're going to lean on the ground game at some point. So if he was able to do it on 8 to 10 carries last week, what will he do with, 12 to 15 carries? So I know it's a popular one this week. I'm not worried about popularity, though. It's at plus money. So I like Devon Achane at plus 105 for an anytime touchdown.
I love this pick. And I think one thing that's really interesting is the Dolphins touchdown premium is starting to come into effect, where you can start to see guys like Tyreek Hill around minus 150, even Jalen Waddle. He hasn't caught a touchdown this year. He's around plus 120, in this spot. And I think the one thing that's really interesting is here we are with a running back 2, and plus 105 is about the peak of what odds are being available right now, which just shows you where this Miami Dolphins offense is going. Now, Brian, you do your touchdown tiers every week for the Action Network, and I'd imagine Tyreek Hill is probably in that tier 1. Did Achane end up getting into tier 1, or is it still in the tier 2 range, with Mostert likely being still in tier 1?
Yeah, so Achane is top of tier 2. If you look at the red zone opportunity share between him and Mostert, he's actually gotten more. And, he's on a historic run right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see McDaniel try to keep that going, and so 1 touchdown, I like at least 1 touchdown. I think he might have another day with 2.
Yeah, and he kind of has that Maurice Jones-Drew vibe to me. Like, I think about back in the day when Fred Taylor was the guy, and then Mojo would come in and he finishes with like 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns by the end of the season. So, this guy is explosive. So I'm very excited to see what he does today against the Giants. All right, gentlemen, let's kick it up a notch. Let's look at our medium bets. These are ones where they're not necessarily the lowest odds, but also at the same time, they're not long shots. They're kind of that mid-tier bets here. And Charlie, why don't you get us started with the Titans-Colts game?
Yeah, I was pretty shocked to see this guy up at this number. DeAndre Hopkins plus 195. Listen, last week he played just about half the snaps and he's been nursing an ankle injury, but this week fully off the injury report, and last week they blew the doors off at Cincinnati. So you're getting a guy that's hurt, that's a little bit hurt. You're not going to play him all the snaps. I think this is the coming out party for DeAndre Hopkins. He's due for positive touchdown regression. Another guy that just hasn't been able to find the end zone, was super close last week. He has a near 40% red zone target share and a 30% target share overall. So if you're looking for a guy that Tannehill's going to throw to, And obviously, you know, we're always nervous with King Henry and being able to just get every single inside the 10 touch. I'd like Hopkins. He's also an explosive receiver. In general, he's 7th in targets per route run. There's no Treylon Burks, so that means there's more targets to be had for him. I just don't think Tennessee has many weapons that really can take advantage of, you know, this game script, this in general Indianapolis defense that is very vulnerable, other than a guy like Nuke. Indianapolis, bottom 10 yards to receivers, 23rd in DVOA to wide receiver 1. So you look at some of the prior games that the Colts defense has kind of gone up against wide receiver 1s, and they've gotten torched. Puka Nacua even, you know, got that game winner a couple weeks ago. So I like Hopkins here at a near 2-to-1 price. It's pretty absurd in my opinion. I think there's plenty of value here. And so I love Nuke to find the end zone in week 5.
Yeah, Tannehill looked sharp last week, and I don't know how much of that was the Bengals doing or just the fact that they were able to get that run game back going, especially with Derrick Henry and, you know, the threat of Henry in the goal line. That was why he was able to throw that touchdown to Josh Weil. Again, just a random dude down, like his first touchdown of his career. He was like 12-1. We've seen that in this offense, but at the same time, Tannehill needs to have a reliable receiving option, and Hopkins is that guy, especially in the red zone, especially facing a Colts team that I think is a little bit overrated in the secondary comparatively to what we saw over the last 2 weeks. Brian, you have a pick from this game as well. Who do you like?
Yeah, Charlie and I are clearly gluttons for pain. We chose one of the lowest scoring games and each took a touchdown score from it. I'm going over to the opposite side here. Look, I'm going to go with, you know, a fellow USC Trojan here. You know, my Trojans narrowly escaped a triple overtime game last night. So I want to sweat out another Trojan bet here. Look, Michael Pittman Jr. is my pick here. If you've noticed a theme with me, I target wide receivers that are facing the Titans. So last 2 years, they have not been good against the pass. Bottom 5, you know, they've allowed fifth most yards passing. They're in the top 5, that is. So I look at it. It's hard to run against them. I think all of the attention is on Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson, and rightfully so. Like, you get Jonathan Taylor back. That's exciting. He signed a contract. You know, he's locked in. So I think this is kind of a nice spot, especially at plus 220 for Michael Pittman Jr. I mean, like, if you watched last week, Anthony Richardson and Michael Pittman Jr. both showed up in Step Brothers t-shirts with their faces on them. And he ended up finishing the game with 1 catch. So I don't think that happens again. I think he will get fed. And look, even though it's a low scoring game, I like Michael Pittman Jr. to score once at plus 220. So that's going to be my pick. I just think everything lines up right for this.
Yeah, I think the key point that you brought up is that run defense by the Titans and how they're going to probably try to lock in on stopping Jonathan Taylor, who might get 20 carries right out of the gate. Yeah. I don't think Zach Moss has really shown enough where Taylor wouldn't get that kind of work. They're not going to pay him that kind of money and not have him at least get at 15 carries, let's say. And then you're looking at least 5 to 10 carries for Anthony Richardson. But that RPO option, I think, is really going to unlock what they're able to do, especially in the passing game, facing a Titans secondary that, again, is a little bit underwhelming. I'll be nice and I'll say they're just underwhelming because I do like Kevin Byard. I think if I was have to pick anybody in that secondary. All right, let's move to the afternoon slate. A game that probably isn't getting as much attention just because it involves the Vikings and their 1-score losing ways. But I'm looking at the Chiefs-Vikings, and I'm looking at the receiving game here, especially on the Minnesota side. And I'm going to take KJ Osborne. I was able to get his touchdown odds at plus 330 rather. Now, he scored a touchdown in 2 of 4 games. But what's really encouraging and why I'm really all about Osborne in this spot is he's playing all the 2 receiver sets. He's over 90% of snaps for the season. It's difficult to find a guy who is playing over 90% of snaps to get somebody over 3-1 odds. And this Chiefs run defense, I think it's really underrated since Chris Jones has come back. Chris Jones, since they've come back in week 2, week 3, week 4, they've not allowed a 100-yard rusher. So the Vikings are likely going to have to play 11 personnel a lot more with 2 tight ends and 2 receivers, less 3 wide receiver sets, which means that Jordan Addison is likely going to be the one who has to suffer in this spot. And Minnesota is already one of the most pass-happy offenses in the NFL this year. They're top 5 in most passing metrics. And if the Chiefs are putting up a bunch of scores as well, because this Vikings secondary is dog crap, that's going to put them in a trailing game script. And that means that KC is likely going to try to do everything they can to sell it to stop Justin Jefferson. So if that's the case, I really like Osborne to cash in this spot. So give me KJ Osborne at plus 330 to score against this Chiefs secondary. All right, let's look at Sunday Night Football, because Cowboys 49ers is, I mean, maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a Cowboys fan, but I feel like this is the game of the year. It has playoff implications, especially in the NFC, just trickle-down effect all the way through. So Sunday Night Football, the touchdown odds, let's look at the top 5. So we have Christian McCaffrey at -175. We have Tony Pollard at -120. Deebo Samuel coming in at +195. CD at +150. And Brandon Ayuk, we talked about him a little bit. He's around +175. And George Kittle at +187. Now, you'll notice that there are fair odds underneath of it in green lettering. That's actually from our colleague, Dr. Nick Giffen, who has projected fair odds for all of these touchdown scores and shows what the true value should be when you want to bet this. So, gentlemen, I'll ask you this. Based on what Nick's fair odds are and based on what we're seeing for the top 6 odds from Bet365 for anytime touchdown scores in this game, Charlie, I'll let you go first. Who are you liking in this game? Are you looking at the top 5 or top 6 here, or are you looking down the odds board for a touchdown score?
Yeah, I mean, if you want a guy that's more, in that range, I like CD Lamb. I think that he's always going to just be a factor in this. And obviously he was upset and said, "Give me the ball," scored a touchdown last week. As I said, scored last week. Think he's more than liable to do it again today. But I think that, down the odds boards present a lot of value. When you look at this game, this is as close to a playoff game as you could probably find in the regular season. And not only that, but this is a team in the Dallas Cowboys that have had their season ended by San Francisco over the last 2 years. They're going to be upset. I think both teams are going to come with clever packages and trick plays and whatever it is inside the red zone. So 2 guys that I think present value and I'll probably dabble on tonight. Rico Dowdle's about +850 and the juice man Kyle Juszczyk +900. I think everyone's going to be so focused on Tony Pollard and Kyle Juszczyk that a guy like on Christian McCaffrey, that a guy like Kyle Juszczyk can kind of leak out and get a nice 2-yard pass. Or Dowdle, we've seen him kind of be used in both the running and the passing game, an explosive guy. So both of those at 8 to 9 to 1, I find value in. So I think in a game that we could see plenty of trickery and clever play calling, those guys present value down the board if you want to take a dabble.
For sure. And the long shots are definitely in play, especially Juice, who is probably going to have to be used from a blocking standpoint, either to run the ball or even just protection for Purdy. Brian, you and I, we talked about Ayuk off air, and are you feeling Ayuk as well? Or is there somebody else down the odds board that you're looking at as well?
No, it's Ayuk. Look, Ayuk's facing man coverage, 30% first read share, almost a 27% target share. This is the exact matchup that Brandon Ayuk has done very well in. And there is a connection with Brock Purdy that you see that's evident. He makes very good throws. He's a good quarterback. And also Ayuk makes plays for him. So it's a great combination. And I like the fact that he somehow still gets overshadowed by Deebo Samuel a bit, even though he's been hyper productive. So I do love Brandon Ayuk tonight. Like Charlie said, I like CD Lamb, but if I were picking one, I do like Brandon Ayuk more.
Same. I'm with you, man. I'm with Brandon Ayuk on this one. And I am seeing some +200s and +210s floated out there right now if you wanted to be able to get on that and get a little bit of ahead of Nick's fair projected odds. But I think you hit the nail on the head about man coverage and also this Cowboys secondary. Even though Trayvon Diggs isn't out, he was more of the gambler of this secondary. They do tend to like to jump routes, and Stephon Gilmore is going to have his hands full, likely trying to match up with Deebo and probably follow him around if they're going to be playing man coverage. I'm going to be looking at a long shot on the Cowboys side, though. I'm going to take Dak Prescott to score a touchdown. We've got the entire Cowboys offensive line coming back. They've held them out in certain games. Everybody is practicing in this game. This is the type of thing that where you don't want to fall to 3-2. I totally see an instance where there'll be like a 3rd and 5, maybe down a couple scores, and Dak runs it because the elephant in the room, he threw 2 interceptions against this team last year. And the way to reduce interceptions, do it on your own. Don't bother trying to force it in on 3rd and 5. Try to take it in on your own. I think that Dak is in a great spot here, especially at 7-1. All right, guys. That was a long shot bet. I'm going to have a video that's coming out a little bit later, more talking about those touchdown picks. But let's go back to the 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. slates and start looking at our spicy touchdown bets. Now, Brian, I already have a pick from this Chiefs Vikings game. I want to hear your spicy pick from it. Let's go.
All right, so look, I played this guy last week. I think these odds just make absolutely zero sense. I think it's a byproduct of the fact that right now the Chiefs haven't, like Patrick Mahomes hasn't had one of these crazy games where you've seen him go off, and the receivers are still kind of relative unknown. So Rashee Rice is one of my favorite picks for this week. It is a beautiful matchup with the Minnesota Vikings. So number one, I love that. I think it would also surprise a lot of people to know that Rashee Rice is also tied with Travis Kelce for red zone targets on the Chiefs.
Yes, sir.
Not only that, but he is targeted on 60. He's got a target on 64% of routes run, which is top 5 in the NFL. So when they are using this guy, he's been very good. I think that they didn't need, they didn't really get much going last week against the Jets. It also was a brutal matchup. It's a much better matchup this week. So I think this number is amazing I think Rice is, you could argue, kind of the wide receiver one. There's not really a true guy that stepped up, but it looks like he's starting to emerge outside of Kelce, obviously. But look, I just think we got to get these odds while they're still where they're at. Because I think if he scores or has a big game, people are starting to talk, it's the number one wide receiver or, potentially the number 2 wide receiver in an offense where Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. So I'm taking that all day. I locked it in at plus 310. I think it's at plus 275 or plus 290 right now. So I'm going to go Rashee Rice. I love that game. Think we're going to get a lot of points. I really liked KJ Osborne too. So I might even have to throw those two together on a little play.
Yeah, Rice is interesting because he hasn't been subject to what I call it is the Chiefs premium, because all the guys at the top, you got Pacheco, Kelce, Tyreek Hill when he was there, all of their odds would be skewed because of the fact that they're playing in the Chiefs offense. But no wide receiver one or wide receiver has really stood out enough to take that mantle, to take that Chiefs premium. So Valdez-Scantling hasn't really done that yet. Sky Moore still hasn't been able to do that yet. So Rashee Rice, if he catches a touchdown this week, I think that's going to clear the air of where we're at in this pecking order on this offense. And I think this is a great spot to grab him, especially against a Vikings defense that is legitimately still playing on rookie mode in Madden right now. Like, they have not stopped anybody. It's kind of hilarious sometimes, but it's good for us from a touchdown score perspective. All right, so this is the Galaxy Brain bet. We're going a little bit outside the box here. So last week, and what I've been doing with these spicy bets is I tend to take my half unit and put it on like defenses or something like that. Instead, we're going to go way down the depth chart, and we're going to take a half or a quarter unit here and a quarter unit there and put it here. So we're going to start off. We're going to put a quarter of a unit on Alec Ingold. This is the fullback for the Dolphins. It's at 20-1. And then we're going to take another quarter unit and we're going to put it on tight end 2 with the Carolina Panthers and Tommy Tremble at 22-1. Now, this is the why we're taking this. So Ingold plays the second most snaps for all fullbacks in the NFL. That's only behind Kyle Juszczyk. Mike McDaniel is a Shanahan disciple. He's basically Juice, but in Miami. He scored twice last year, rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. And the Giants, they blitz a lot. This likely means that they're going to have more protection for those quick throws that Tua likes to do. That means Ingold could be used even more to help block, especially for the running game. A lot of man coverage as well from the Giants. I could see Ingold being lined up against a linebacker and be able to beat that matchup. So Ingold is the first half of what we're doing here. Now for Tremble, this is all about the odds and the matchup. So he scored 3 touchdowns last year. He's playing around 40% of snaps. And this Detroit Lions team, I still think their secondary is a bit overrated, and they've been notoriously bad versus tight ends, especially over the middle since the start of last year. They're last in catches and yards to tight ends this season, and they were last in touchdowns allowed to tight ends as well. So the other thing that helps is Detroit's best slot corner, who would likely end up facing kind of Tremble in this spot, Brian Branch, he's out. So the other thing that I was going to say is there's going to be a long shot touchdown score that happens from the Panthers, whether it's Laviska Shenault, you got Tommy Tremble, even Hayden Hurst is out there right now around plus 400. So the one thing I will just say is if you don't like Tommy Tremble, where his odds just feel too much for you, look at Hayden Hurst. He's around plus 400, not bad value. I would look at that, but I'm going with the long shot here. Tommy Tremble at 22-1 and Alec Ingold at 20-1. Putting a quarter unit on each, trying to get a nice little 4 or 5 unit winner here. Charlie, take us home. Who do you like for your spicy pick for week 5?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to follow up 2 20-1s. Maybe I'll put together Ingold and Juszczyk in a parlay tonight. But my long shot is a guy that's kind of become pretty popular in the NFL realm over the past week, in the Giants game as well. On the Giants side, Wan'Dale Robinson at plus 650.
Yes.
I just think that this number is way too high for a guy that gets such high usage. You look at his snap count over the last 2 weeks. He returned from an ACL injury, 22% 2 weeks ago to 64% last week against Seattle. And if you look at the depth chart and just the snap counts in general, he hopped Jalen Hyatt, Paris Campbell, and Isaiah Hodgins, who played just 37% of snaps last week. So you're seeing a guy that has a ton of usage, that is playing a lot more snaps, and it's only going to go up from here. You look at the game when he got injured and tore his ACL, he had 13 targets that week. This week, the last 2 weeks, he comes back. He's on 41 total routes that he ran. 11 times he was targeted. So this is a guy that Daniel Jones is going to rely on, and we've seen him and the Giants offensive line. They're awful. So there's going to be a lot of dump offs, a lot of quick checkdowns, maybe even end arounds for Wan'Dale, who is explosive. And I just think that there's going to be so many opportunities for him as a gadget player without Saquon Barkley to make a dent. And you look at just in general, Wan'Dale, 25% target per route run, and Dolphins, they're a zone heavy coverage defense. So that's where a guy like Wan'Dale, who can find space, he's quick, can just kind of move the ball down the field. Explosive player, gadget player, kind of has that Isaiah McKenzie Buffalo role from a couple years ago. At plus 650, it's worth taking a stab. I think he's going to have a great day.
I love this pick, and I actually love a lot of value on the Giants today. Look, I'm not saying the Giants aren't going to blow the doors off this defense, but they're not exactly like, top 5 defense themselves. They'll give up points, and they're going to give opportunities. And Wan'Dale, just from an eye test standpoint, easily looked like the most explosive receiver out there. Isaiah Hodgins, how the mighty have fallen. He can't even get on the field anymore. Nobody throws to Darius Slayton anymore in that offense. So Wan'Dale is your guy. They're very high on him. The fact that we're still getting it at plus 650 is more, I think, the fact it's the reverse of the Chiefs premium. It's the Giants
discount.
Exactly. Because they've been so bad offensively that you're getting inflated value on some of these guys who are especially heavily involved. So I think this is a solid pick and a great way to round out our spicy bets for week 5. But now it's time to talk about the Bet365 anytime touchdown boosted parlay. That's right. The boost is loose. We've got 2 solid guys here. We're going to start with the Chiefs-Vikings game. We've got Justin Jefferson as one leg. And then on the Eagles and Rams side, we're going to pair it with Jalen Hurts. Now, let's start talking about Jefferson here. He's got 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. He leads the NFL in receiving yards. I still think this KC secondary is a little bit overrated, which is why I like KJ Osborne as well. But Jefferson, I believe, is primed for another big game. Jalen Hurts, though, and the tush push, like that works on any team. I don't care if it's the Rams. I don't care what team it is in the NFL. It works. And if the Eagles get inside the 5-yard line, I can guarantee that it's going to Jalen Hurts, because the Eagles have only had 6 rushes inside the 5-yard line this year, and Jalen Hurts has 4 of them for 3 touchdowns. And he was second in the NFL last year in rushes inside the 5-yard line. When they get in that spot, it's Jalen Hurts' time to shine. And so this parlay was originally plus 224. We have it boosted up to plus 264. Charlie, what do you think of this parlay? Are we going to go all in on it?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I mean, every week we look at who we're going to include on this boost, and every week all of us go, Justin Jefferson. Jefferson. I mean, Jay Jettas is always going to get targets. He's going to get multiple every single game, and especially in this Kansas City, Minnesota game where they're slight underdogs. I think it's going to be high scoring. So Jefferson's always a great look. And Jalen Hurts, I mean, like you said, right? Like every time they're inside the 5, if I have a guy on the Eagles to score a touchdown and I see someone go down inside the 5, I'm like, well, it's Jalen Hurts's. And then sure enough, he scores. So I love this. I love this parlay. I'll be taking it. Bet365, shout out for the boost. Let's cash this one.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a really tough decision too, because we were looking at Jefferson, but then we were like, oh, should we swap this out with Kelsey? Kelsey keeps getting the looks. But I think right now we more prefer the value on Rashee Rice. I think so, Matt.
Yeah. I mean, I love this boost though. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you're, Justin Jefferson every week, I mean, like, honestly, if we didn't talk about the defense, I still don't think it would be a problem. Just in Justin Jefferson's case, like, he is matchup proof. It just doesn't matter so far this season. Like 100+ yards almost is guaranteed, at least so far. But it's a great matchup. They're going to need to be passing the ball, even if they're not, losing by a bunch. I don't see a scenario where they're blowing Kansas City out and they're, running Madison and Akers down. But yeah, love that one. And then Jalen Hurts, someone will have to fact check me, but like going back to last year, I'm not sure that he's gone 2 games without scoring in quite some time. So yeah, I love both of these. I like, both first names start with J. So I'm feeling good about this one.
Beautiful. And the anytime touchdown boosted parlay, just to reiterate, is Justin Jefferson and Jalen Hurts. It was plus 224, Bet365. They did us a solid, boosted it up to plus 264. And the boost, along with the touchdown show, is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only or 18 plus in Kentucky and present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia. Or in Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Terms and conditions and restrictions apply. All right, gentlemen, that's all for today. 3 picks from me. 3 picks from Charlie. We've got 3 picks from Brian. We're going to see you next Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern as part of the Action Network Power Hour. And if you misconvinced me, you can rewatch the show or download the Action Network app. You can get all of our picks in one place. You can also check out all of our Week 5 touchdown bets in the Action app. I want to thank you for watching the Touchdown Show presented by Bet365. Bon chance.